Hello Alamal, hello everybody. Welcome back to Mona Cottage Books. This is Books at Tea Time and I am Selby. But you'll see today I do not have a cup of tea because if you are like the main character in this book, you're stuck in the dungeon for a very long time and there will be no tea. Okay, so in the intro I mentioned being in a dungeon and not having any tea and how sad that is. But he gets out. So I will try to backtrack a little bit and tell you about the book. So first off, the series is, so I'm doing a whole series. This is the book that I just finished reading, but it starts with A Darkening of Dragons. So A Darkening of Dragons by S.A. Patrick, and it starts with, well, okay, so I'll backtrack and I'll tell you that I listened to it as an audiobook, and I had just picked it up purely by the cover because it's pretty, and so I knew absolutely nothing. And so everything was a surprise, and I really like that. So if you are looking for an epic middle grade fantasy with cool characters, lots of adventure, super interesting magic system, all of that good stuff, you can just stop now and you can go get the book and you can read it because it's great. And then you'll have the same experience of me as just going, woo, that was so interesting. But if you want to know a little bit more, I'll keep talking and you can keep listening. So A Darkening of Dragons, it starts with Patch Brightwater. And it says that he's 13, but I feel like he's a little bit older because he's very, very mature. So he's what's called a piper. And in this realm, in this magical world, pipers can play music on their pipes and have it influence things. So if you, sometimes you can play a song and like plants will grow faster, or a sheep will flock together. There's also songs you can play to heal people from wounds. There's songs to make people happy. There's songs to influence what animals do. There's songs to do all sorts of things. So it's just lots of stuff. This book starts 10 years after the Hamlin Piper. So the Pied Piper, that story that you've heard about how like he cleared the rats out of a town with his pipe, and then the town didn't pay him, so he took their children. That story. And at first I thought this was going to be a retelling of that story, but it's not. That event happened 10 years previous, and now we're going into Patch's story. And I'm going to try and break this up. So let's go into characters. So the characters, the main characters, there's a couple main characters. There's Patch. Patch is the main character, and he's, like I said, a 13-year-old boy. Then he meets Wren, who, when he meets her, she's actually a rat. Wren, I think she's also about the same age. I don't remember exactly, somewhere around there. So there's Wren Cobble, Patch Brightwater, Wren Cobble, and then they meet Barver Notverkerkel. And Barver, it looks like Barver, but the audiobook pronounced it Bava. So Bava is a dragogryph. He's half dragon, half griffin. And then there's also Erner plays a big part. Erner Whitlock. He is a custodian elite. So he's like an elite piper. So he can do a lot of different piping magic. And then he's kind of like the police or the, the law enforcement of the realm as well. He's a training to do that. So he's a little bit older than Patch and Wren. And then Bava's, they don't say how old he is. He's an adult hippogriff or dragogryph. So he can do what he wants. Those are the characters. Now we'll go on to... So we meet Patch when he is kind of like as an outlaw. He's trying to get away. He's done something wrong. He played a song he wasn't supposed to play. It's not a huge deal, but he is in trouble. And he ends up getting put into the dungeons, which is where the intro comes from. He's in the dungeons of this place called Tiviskin Castle, and he kind of has to just like drink water that flows down the walls and kind of stuff. Sounds terrible. Anyway, luckily he's not there for long because a whole bunch of stuff happens. And I don't want to give too much away because it's really well written and it's really interesting. And but he gets out, and so does Ren. So Ren is with him as a rat, and he gets out and he learns this very interesting piece of information and gets an interesting thing, and keeps it with him. And so then that's kind of puts him in on this adventure path. So he again has to go and do some stuff. If I'm sounding really vague, it's because it's all when you're reading it, every little bit you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so I don't want to give too much away. I want to just kind of say, ooh, it's really good, it's well written, and it's very interesting. So that's as much of the plot as I want to give away right now. Okay, I talked about the characters and the plot, and now I want to talk about just the general things about the 3 books in the series that I liked and why you might like them as well. I will try not to give too many specifics because, again, like if I say anything about what happens in book 3, then that's going to give away stuff that happens in book 2 and 1, and I don't want to do that, so I'm trying to be very vague in general, so that I don't spoil anything. So if you like books with lots of adventure, changes of scenery, epic quests almost, then this is a great book. They do a lot in here. It's packed, it's fast paced, they're always going, very, very interesting and fun. Also, friendship. Friendship is a big factor in these books. The friendship between Ren, Bava, and Patch, also Erner, but mostly the main 3. That is what propels the story forward, that they care about each other and they want to keep going to make sure that their friends are cared for and in a good place, basically. I mean, they care about everybody as well. They're good kids. They're 13-year-olds, but they're good kids, and so they really want things to turn out well, and so that's their motivation to keep going. Then there's the magic system is really interesting. Like I said, that it's all about piping. There are sorcerers and there's other types of magic, but those aren't the main ones. There's not a lot of people around with like wands and stuff. Sorcerers are kind of rare. But there's a lot of pipers. So there's a lot of people with this ability to use a pipe or to whistle and have it influence things. And I haven't read about that in books or movies before, where music plays such a strong part of the magical system. And so I really like that. And I thought that was unique and interesting. Another thing that I really loved about these books is that there's no chosen one. It's not like you are supposed to be this great thing. We've plucked you out of obscurity and now you have to learn something and then be the best and defeat someone. So what happens is the way that the characters improve is of their own accord. So Patch is a piper. He has the ability to already do some things with his pipe, but he has not finished his training and he is not in the position to do anything, honestly. He is not chosen to do this. He does not have to do this. If he wanted to just escape from that castle and go sit somewhere for the rest of his life, he totally could. He is not made to do this. He does it because he has a strong sense of right and wrong, and he wants to contribute to society, and he also wants to learn. So when he is given the opportunity to see and hear more advanced pipers, he listens and he tries it. And so it's not someone teaching him, it's not anyone putting anything on him, it's him wanting to do it himself and better himself and his abilities. And I think that was a really strong message for younger people, that, you know, no one has to come and tell you to do something. you can choose to improve yourself and your abilities just because you want to. And Ren does the same thing in her journey. Erner, he's not as, he's already pretty well equipped. Yeah, so I thought that was really great that the kids, they don't get told what to do. They do things because they see an opportunity and they see a way to help and they see what they can do, and they use all of their knowledge and their skills to get done what needs to be done. And I think that that's much more powerful than being like, we've just plucked you out of here and now you do it. It's like, I want. Okay, I talked about the characters and the plot, and now I want to talk. Another thing I want to talk about is the overarching, not plot, but like all of the points, all the things that happened, they're intricately woven together. We get different people's perspective on what's happening, and it's just really well done. That is obviously well thought out. So obviously S.A. Patrick thought of all 3 books at the same time and kind of plotted them out, because things that happened in book 3 are related to things that happened in book 1 and 2. And it's not like, oh, he wrote book 1 and then had to like create some stuff for the other ones. Like it all like flowed really well together. And so I super appreciate that. Also, I found out that S.A. Patrick has previously written horror novels for adults. And you can totally tell, once I knew that, I didn't know that until book 3, but once I knew that, I was like, oh yeah, I can see, because he writes suspense really well. Like, ooh, will this happen? And build up. And so like that good tension, he does really well. So I think that's really nice. So who is this book for? Well, it's for middle grade. And that means a lot of things. So I would probably give it to, the first book doesn't have as much fighting and stuff in it. So I would say like a 7-year-old could enjoy that. It's a little dark, but it's not terrible. Nothing really, really bad happens. It gets a little darker. They should be a little bit more mature for book 2 and 3. So I'd say like 8 for the other ones. Then, but you know, like it depends on the maturity of your child. Also, even though they say that it's 13 and kids usually like to read about books about characters that are older than them, I feel like they act like they're 15, 16. I forgot that he was 13 very quickly after they said that in the book. And so I think like, yeah, even 12, 13, 14-year-olds would enjoy this book. It's really well written. All right, to wrap up, I also want to talk about the art. So just take a look at that pretty book. Also, and like I said, I first started to listen to a Darkening of Dragons purely because the cover was pretty. I knew nothing about it. I'd never heard of the author before. I'd never heard of the book before. It was just a pretty book and I could get it on audiobook, and so I went with it. And it was the cover image that did it for me. And so I just wanted to shout out to the artist, George Ermos. Great cover artist, really captured the totality of the story in just that one image. And so I'll link all of his stuff below. Like I said, S.A. Patrick has also written some horror. So if you're an adult horror reader, you might want to check out his stuff, because his writing in this book is great. And then the book in the middle, the second book, I don't think I've talked about that yet, is A Vanishing of Griffins. So, but definitely you do need to read these in order for them to make sense. So it's A Darkening of Dragons, A Vanishing of Griffins, and then A Thunder of Monsters. So that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed that and that it inspired you to go read these awesome, awesome books. If you've got suggestions for books that are similar that I might like, put them in the comments, and then like and subscribe so that I can bring more fun, awesome books to you.